Today we want to take a closer look at what it takes to get a driving license in Germany, and also how German drivers are prepared for high speeds on the Autobahn. First of all, before you can drive any motorized vehicle on the streets in Germany, you can get another license. With 14 years, you can get a pilot license for gliders in Germany, which is earlier than in neighbor countries. Why? Because after the First World War, Germany wasn't allowed to build motorized planes anymore, and hence shortly after became the leading country for gliders. Until today, there are many grass airfields in the whole country and very active glider clubs. So you can get your training with 13 and your license with 14. A year later, with 15, you can get a moped license. EU law only allows this from 16, but Germany reduced the age to 15. So as long as you are 15, you can only drive your moped in Germany, from 16 in whole Europe. So with 14, you can take classes and get the license with your 15th birthday. Depending on your area, your driving school and your own ability, this AM license costs you between 500 and 1000 euro. In the driving school, you need to take 12 classes for basic traffic rules and additional 2 classes for moped-specific knowledge. One class is 90 minutes. After this, you can do your theoretical test. So unlike in other countries, you have to go to a driving school to take your lessons from the driving teacher there, and you have to go to an independent theory test. You cannot do this online. After you pass the theory test, you can start with practical lessons. Since this license is only for mopeds, there is no minimum number of lessons and there are no special lessons required, since mopeds are not allowed to drive on the Autobahn, for example. But you have to pass basic driving exercises like slalom, emergency braking, sudden lane change with and without braking, driving with walking speed, stop and go while alternating between left and right foot at every stop, and driving in a tight circle. A moped is restricted to 50 cc, 45 km per hour and 4 kilowatt. But now East German kids have a huge advantage. East Germany produced 50 cc mopeds which can drive 60 km per hour from factory and have a special permission to do so until today, although they fall under the moped category. It also means they are tax-free, and insurance license plates for 1 year only cost 40 euro, and there's no TÜV. So these East German mopeds, which are between 30 and 50 years old, became so popular in whole Germany now that their prices increased by a factor of 10 in the last 15 years. Because new mopeds and scooters are always restricted to 45 km per hour. Every household in East Germany has such a moped from parents or grandparents, or at least a few spare parts lying around. For 15-year-olds, especially in the countryside, it's huge freedom. There are moped gangs and meetings everywhere and a huge tuning scene. By the way, since it's only a moped license, there is no probation period, so less trouble if the police stops you. And these mopeds can easily be tuned to drive 70 km per hour and faster. Girls and boys naturally learn how to work on their bikes because you don't want to be slower than your friends, and they learn how to earn money to be able to afford the fuel. Since they need a 2-stroke mixture, which you don't get at most German fuel stations anymore, you have to mix your fuel yourself. So they learn technology and traffic rules from early on and are independent. So from 15, it's uncool to be driven around by your parents. From 16, you can start your driving school for cars. If you already have a moped license, you only need to take half of the basic theory lessons, but the car-specific lessons are mandatory. In Germany, the fail rate for a theory test is between 25 and 30%. And here we should say that the theory knowledge German driving schools teach mainly focuses on keeping the traffic flowing and thinking for the other road users. Drive in a way that others don't have to brake for you. So, for example, they teach you to keep traffic jams short and hence drive to the very front of the zipper merge and then merge one by one. When I was living in the UK, they were almost beating me up for that. If a junction has 2 lanes and there is traffic jam at one of them, use the other one instead of queuing at the back. Only let people in if it's not blocking traffic. If you're in a traffic jam, keep driveways clear. Anticipate what the others might do to create clear situations. And make space for emergency vehicles. Stick to your lane, stay on the right. Just to name a few examples. And you can even see that at pedestrians who go to the side and stop to tie their shoelaces to not obstruct traffic flow. After you passed your theory test, you can start taking practical lessons. And no, unlike other countries, in Germany it's not allowed to practice driving with your own car in public traffic. But of course, in the countryside, people often do it anyway. So by law, you are only allowed to train with a driving school vehicle with 2 sets of pedals. For the practical lessons for the car and motorbike license, there are certain requirements. Despite being able to park your car quickly and perform a hard emergency braking, you need to take at least 12 special driving lessons. These are 5 country road lessons, 4 Autobahn lessons, and 3 lessons in the night. These special lessons should prepare you for special situations. So you take longer trips on country roads to get used to bikes, sometimes animals on the road, and low speeds in villages in between. The night lessons help you to get used to high and low beam, animals crossing in the countryside areas, and the light and mirror settings of the car. Unlike in the UK, for example, where until 2018 it was not allowed for learners to drive on the motorway, and after you passed you are allowed to drive there without any training, in Germany you are required to take at least 4 lessons on the Autobahn. And there, you don't just learn to stick to the right lane and keep a safe distance to other vehicles, they also teach you how to handle a car at higher speeds. For example, the driving instructor might ask you to keep 180 km per hour or 110 miles per hour constantly and see how it goes. The stress level goes up, you have to react to situations a lot earlier, and they teach you that driving on the Autobahn at higher speeds is a bit like chess. You always have to anticipate the other's next move. For example, if you see that someone is on the right lane and getting closer to a truck, chances are high this car will pull out and you can already step off the throttle before he is even making the move. Also, it doesn't make sense to keep your high speed until you reach this car and then brake hard. You can assume it will pull over after the truck and prepare your acceleration for it. On the other hand, if you see a faster car approaching behind you, you should make space when it's possible and maybe even accelerate a bit. The other one will think the same and prepare the acceleration for when there is a gap for you to pull over. That way, high velocities on German autobahns are possible in a safe way if everyone is playing chess. Very often, people come to Germany to drive fast on the Autobahn, but it's quickly getting dangerous. People pull out right in front of a lot faster cars because they are not used to the huge speed differences. And if they are driving 160 km per hour, they already feel fast, stick to the left, but there might be someone doing 200 or more approaching them from behind. When they drive fast, they don't play chess, they stay on the throttle, or not, which often leads to dangerous situations. Also, how fast things happen and the much longer brake distance are new for many. On the other hand, most Germans don't even drive faster even if the Autobahn is unrestricted. Just if you want, you can, and you are prepared for it. Since the introduction of the German Autobahn system in the 1930s, building standards have been extremely high to allow high velocities with influences from racetrack designs, like banked corners for junctions, wide lanes, even bridges without center support for record runs. So the roads can do it, the cars are designed for it, and the people learned it in driving school. Of course, that doesn't mean everyone is the perfect driver. Also, German license holders are forgetting to stick to the right and pull out in front of faster vehicles. But people learned these things in driving school and the preparation is a bit more intense than in other countries. So if you passed everything, you can get your car license with your 17th birthday and you are allowed to drive a car everywhere as long as an experienced and reliable driver, and with not too much alcohol and not too many points, is sitting next to you. Statistics show that in driving school you get around 500 kilometers of training, and by driving with an experienced driver next to you, around 1,500 before you turn 18. So when you are 18, you are allowed to drive a car alone, and the preparation is a lot better. Of course, you can also not start with moped or motorcycle and start with a car license, but that would cost you 1,500 to 3,000 euro and you start with a lot less experience, which means you might need more driving lessons. So I hope you liked this little insight because there have been questions about the German driving license system, and check out my other videos for more.